How important you think that was, for your career? Because then you just made an instant pivot, you know?
Yeah. Oh my God. Like if I hadn't met Abram, I can't even imagine where I would be right now. Like I
Thank you,
didn't
thank
know.
you, thank you. The flattery is appreciated.
No, for real. I had no idea what wholesaling even was. He was like the
Hmm.
first wholesaler that I'd ever encountered. His team like reached out to me on Facebook
Hmm.
and they were like, "Do you want this deal?" And I was like, "Yeah, I want this deal.
Hmm.
Looks like a great deal." So I go out there to, well, I had my contractor was supposed to meet me. My contractor never showed up, thank God.
Yeah.
And then, so I drive out there. It's like 8 o'clock at night. I've got the flu. I'm like, don't get too close. I'm sick, but I just want to buy this property. So we're walking around, and he's like, do you think you could teach me how to flip houses? And I was like, do you think you could teach me how to get properties off market by going direct to seller? And he was like, yeah.
It's like the
So,
Spider-Man meme, like,
yeah.
with the Spider-Man and they pointing at each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like that. It was like, oh, okay, cool. So,
Right.
yo, what's good? What's popping, y'all? It's your boy Abram Mitchell, and you are now tuned in to the Triple M podcast, where you unlock the secrets of a money-making mindset. And I want y'all to remember, action takers is the money makers. So everything that we talk about on this show, I want you to stay focused, and I want you to take one actionable item that you could apply immediately. Okay? So at the end of the day, bro, for our people that's tuned in, y'all already know what y'all coming to this show to learn. But if you new and you never tuned into the show, you might hear us talk about, of course, real estate, but entrepreneurship as a whole. We're going to talk about getting money. Because at the end of the day, I feel like there's a lot of people out here right now that need some help in the financial department, and that'll help the rest of their life. I'm not saying it'll make you happy, but it'll definitely help you out for sure. So today, I have a special guest with me by the name of Miss Tasha. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Appreciate you asking me that. Appreciate you asking me. So, Tasha is one of my friends, business partners, everything all around. But our friendship started in business, and she is actually a very successful real estate investor here in Nashville, Tennessee. And I wanted to bring a woman on this show that's in real estate because I feel like in this day and age, it's still like we need more of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I feel like with somebody like you, you're a woman and you're a minority at the same time. So like when our viewers see you, they're gonna be like, damn, like I could really relate to that. You know what I'm saying? Like with me, like I'm not your traditional real estate investor. I feel the same thing about you. And I feel like the more people that are able to speak and talk about their stories, that don't look like the traditional investors that the game knew, will motivate more people that look like us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Sure.
Tasha, she good at what she do. So I want to get right into it and really like just get straight to the game today. So Tasha, what made you want to get into real estate? Like what was it, like something like you just woke up one day and said, real estate is my calling? Or like did you see a certain training or hear a video, see a commercial? Like where did it all start for you?
Yeah, so I remember working a corporate job where I just felt like I was run ragged.
Okay.
They were kind of taking advantage of my time, but paying me the same no matter how much I worked. I was
Hmm.
working like 60, 70-hour weeks, um, holidays, nights, early mornings.
Damn, where you
And
was working at?
I don't even want to
You
say
know what I'm
it.
saying?
Retail,
Retail.
retail
Okay.
management.
Gotcha. You working at Walmart.
No, no, not quite. And so I was working so much, and I
Hmm.
was just thinking like corporate just isn't for me.
Hmm.
Like these people, I don't feel like really care about me as a person, my goals. They switched me from I was supposed to be the executive team leader of human resources. They moved me over to store team leader of customer experience, and
Hmm.
that's not what I wanted to do with my career. So I was like, you know what? I think I need to work for myself because I have all this potential. I know all the things that I could do for a company, and they're not going to start me off there. So I just kind of wanted to take control of my own life, my own career path, and give myself permission to do all the things that I knew I could do in a company.
Okay.
So I quit after 6 months in my big girl job.
Was that like
And
your first one?
yeah, like my
Yeah.
first legit big girl job on salary. And I quit 6 months in, and I didn't have a backup plan. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I got a little bit of money saved, but my boss at the time was flipping houses,
Okay.
and I remember like putting that in my back pocket. Like that's interesting. Like I wonder how I could make money doing that. So I started temping and working a couple different jobs. I was doing like recruitment, I was doing like secretary work, I was a brand ambassador. And so I was, I was making probably like three quarters of what I was doing the corporate position. And basically what I ended up doing while I was like working as a secretary is like reading about different ways to start my own business.
Okay.
And so I stumbled across the book 1, 2, 3 Flip by Jay Scott,
All
and
right.
I learned about, flipping, wholesaling, and everything like that. And literally 3 weeks later, I bought a
So
flip.
you weren't like that's a I'm noticing like everything you don't really put too much time in between it. Like job, relatively speaking, like 6 months in, you like I'm done. Like that's
Yeah.
fast. Most people like 6 years in, they finally, take that jump.
Yeah.
And then you say you read the book and then 3 weeks later you bought a crib. So like you ain't scared of nothing. You like the best way is to find out. So
Yeah.
what happened? Like you bought that house. What went into that? Like you just went to a bank and got a loan? Like how that went?
Yeah, so I had enough to put down on the house, and I found it cheap enough. I mean, I ended up selling it for like 100,000 more than I bought it for, and it only needed about 20K in work, 20,
Okay.
30K. So yeah, I was able to
You do the
get
math.
yeah, I was able to get hard money on it. I was able to put down what I had on it, and my backup plan, I was like, I want to own a house anyways. So
Mm-hmm.
like worst case scenario, if I can't make money on it, I'll just refinance it and keep it. Which
Okay.
at the time I didn't know was the Burr method, where you buy,
Yeah.
renovate, rent, refinance, and
You
repeat.
knew about that from that book?
I didn't, but like
Mm-hmm.
that's like what my thought process was. So I was
Okay.
like, you know what? Either way, this is an educated risk. I can't really fail. Worst
Mm-hmm.
case, I live in it, rent out the rooms. Um, but it worked.
Mm-hmm.
I flipped it. I made like 25,000 on it, and I was like, okay, I want to move on to the next property.
Mm-hmm.
Move on to the next property. I lost money.
Wait. All right, let's back up a little bit.
Okay.
So you said the first flip you made 25,000 on it, but you bought it for 100,000 less
Yeah.
than what it was worth.
Mm-hmm.
So some people might be like that math ain't adding up. The
Yeah.
math
The math
ain't
ain't
math.
math.
Yeah, exactly. So can you like explain to our people like, all right, where is that other money? Where did that other profit or other money go in the
Yeah.
deal?
Is this where I'm supposed to be looking?
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, when you buy a flip, you have to account for holding costs. So whatever you have to pay your lender, whatever you have to pay, like as far as insurance, as far as electrical, water, you have to also factor in what you got to pay your agent. I wasn't an agent at the time, so I had to pay 6% in commission. So there's all kind of holding costs that go into it. Which is why people typically what you see is people buy at 75% minus repairs. So 75% of the ARV after repair value minus repairs is about what you're going to pay for a property if you want to net a certain margin. And so those were the numbers that I used to buy this property. So I was paying like 15% interest, which is comparable to what we're dealing with today. But I
That's
was high
still high.
risk. Yeah, I was
That's
high
high.
risk because it was my
Golly.
first. I know.
15%. Hell
Yeah.
no. I did it once though. I know who
Did
you
you?
probably got lending from.
Yeah, you do because I think
Meridian?
yeah
Yeah.
yeah I sent
Uh-huh.
you to them.
I used them before once.
Yeah, so I mean it was easy money. It was expensive money kind of, but like it was easy to get a hold of. I mean they closed it in like 2 weeks. So, but yeah, there's all kinds of different holding costs that go into buying a property, which is why you have to keep your margins, thicker because
Mhm.
the longer it takes to sell a property, the more you're gonna pay
It's
on
gonna
it.
take right out of that profit. So
Exactly.
that brings us to the next deal that I'm assuming you started learning a little bit more about that because you said the second flip you ended up losing money.
Yeah,
How much?
so I lost like 15 grand of the
Okay.
of the 25 that I made. So like I
Okay.
still had some, but
Mhm.
obviously I'm trying to get ahead.
Yeah.
like I'm not flipping houses to keep breaking even.
Yeah.
So I thought about quitting at that point. But then I realized, like every mistake that you learn gets you closer to success. So I kept going and I just was going into it with the mindset of, okay, like I'm probably like God's gonna give it to me tenfold the next one because I lost this one. I learned my lesson. Like I basically got swindled by a contractor. So that's where the money went. And then on top of that, the agent that I was working with, I was kind of relying on her to tell me what my ARV was, and she comped the property wrong. So like all my math was wrong.
You was relying on somebody else.
I was relying on somebody else. So that's what inspired me after this flip to get my license.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you want it done right, you need to do it yourself. But you can't do everything yourself. So I'm out here trying to do it all. But on the next property, I ended up making double. So I got two properties for the price of one. One was a flip, one was a lot. I sold the lot for 35 grand, and then I made about.
Damn,
It
like Nashville.
was in Jolton,
Okay, I'm about to say.
and
I'm
it was
like, I
back. It
bet
was
you.
back in the day.
I'm saying, I bet you'll buy that lot for double what it's worth now. Like,
Yeah.
well, double what you sold it for back in the day.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
you sold
I
it?
still think I underpriced it,
Okay.
but and then I made about 45K on the flip.
Oh, so that gave
So
you your cushion.
it gave me my cushion, and
Yeah.
it gave me my confidence back.
Mhm. So you made like 80,000 on that deal. So at this point, you got a little money saved up. You got some experience. You say you got your realtor license also.
Yeah.
Okay. One thing that like I'm noticing is that like every decision you making, not everyone, but you are making the decision to set yourself up to be the person to control everything. Because you said on that flip that you lost, you relied on a realtor to run the comps that
Right.
didn't know what he or she was doing. You relied on a contractor that you probably didn't know. Like it's like you go to a car shop and the mechanic working on the car. If you don't know nothing about cars, they could tell you anything.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with real estate, you know?
Mhm.
So what I wanted to say is that so you made that money on those deals, you got your license. What was like the next step? Like when did you start feeling like you made the right decision to quit your job?
Oh, so I hadn't even quit my jobs by this point.
You quit your corporate job though, right?
Yeah.
The
so
secretary job. You still had this one?
Mhm.
All right, cool. So
Yeah.
you still working.
I was working 3 jobs
Okay.
the whole time I was flipping.
Okay.
And it wasn't until my 4th deal when I quit, and I actually got offered at one of so I was doing full time. I had a lot of jobs. I was doing full time Monday through Friday in HR, so I was doing recruiting. Then I had an after hours job in California that was part time for recruiting.
Okay.
And then I had a third job on the weekends as a brand ambassador. And this is all so I can like make sure that I'm paying for everything
the
and staying
bills.
afloat
hmm
just to get my flipping career off the ground and running. So I quit all of my jobs, and I had just gotten offered like my dream position, like doing HR and recruiting at this company, like potentially full time for like forever. And
Was
like
it like a
move up.
6-figure salary and all that?
No, it was an okay salary, but it was like gonna put me on track to where I wanted to be, like from what I went to college for.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a decision to make. Do I want to like take the path of like working for somebody and do like my dream career and just take that path all the way to like HR business partner somewhere? Or do I want to drop everything, get my license and save 3% on every flip that I do, and then be able to like control more in my business and further my flipping career? And so I decided to just quit
How
again.
how important do you think it is to like be able to have like a mindset like that? Because a lot of people like the stuff you saying is normal to me and you. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
like most people can't wrap their mind around having plan A
Right.
and then changing a little bit.
Yeah.
How important do you think that is for people like to be able to just, hey, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm changing the way I'm gonna do this, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it depends how bad you want it,
Mhm.
you know? For me, not taking a risk is a risk. Like, I was thinking, what's the best case scenario that could happen to me? And then what's the worst case scenario?
Mhm.
The worst case scenario is I end up right back where I was, you
Yeah.
know? So that it's not really that much of a risk to take to say, all right, I'm going to quit these jobs. I could just turn around and get another one, you
Mhm.
know? But it would have been a bigger risk for me not to move forward with my own career path and my own control over my income and my day-to-day business operations than it would have been to like leave that position. So like say I kept that position and I didn't take this path, like I
The
wouldn't be.
opportunity cost is like
It's
it's
major.
crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's and I think that's like exactly what you just talked about. That's what people need to do is like I think what stop people from their decisions is they always focus on the negative side of it. But like I was talking to somebody the other day about this. I'm like, I'm noticing that everything you're saying,
Yeah.
you're saying, well, what if this happened? What if that happened? And they were talking about the negative outcome. But I'm like,
Yeah.
well, what if the good side happened? You know what I'm saying? Like you
Yeah,
just said, like you made money on your first flip, 25 grand. A job not gonna pay you that in half a year probably, you know?
exactly. Yeah.
You lost a little bit of profit on the second flip,
Hmm.
learned a lot more knowledge though.
Yeah.
And then on the third one, boom, you hit for $80,000.
Right.
Most people don't even get to that point because they don't even think about that other side. Like, what is the good side of this? And I just really feel like you said, if more people, like, before they make a decision, truly outweigh, like, well, if I do it and it doesn't work, I'm gonna end up back to where I was at before, which, okay, cool.
Yeah.
If I don't do it, now I never find out what
Right.
could have been.
Yeah.
And you the perfect example of what it is, what happened. So uh, with that transition, being a woman, getting into real estate, also being a minority, like and I know your background too. I don't know how much you want to talk about that, but what was like some of the adversities that you faced, like just talking to a lender, trying to get a loan, trying to hire a contractor and trust them.
Yeah.
Like, what was, I know you dealt with some stuff like with that.
So I would say getting money was the easy part.
Okay.
Because I had a decent track record. I went for, obviously like a high risk loan, and then I got, like better loans after that because of my track record.
Okay.
I would say the worst part of everything that I have gone through during like my real estate investing career is dealing with contractors.
Okay.
Because I'm a young woman,
Mm-hmm.
I look like I may not know what I'm doing, but I can actually get in there and do that
Yeah,
stuff. Like
think
I
you
did
did
my
see or
electrical
something
work.
like that.
Yeah, like I did my electrical work before. Like I learned how to do tile work. Like I can do all kinds of stuff. I've refinished my own cabinets. Like I don't like doing it, but like
Mm-hmm.
I've done it all before and I know what things cost. I know what it takes to get things done and I know what it looks like when it's done right. And that's just from me being in there and making sure that I get that experience with my contractors. So when I would hire contractors, they would look at me and think, oh, this is going to be an easy one to swindle.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not. So then
Yeah.
that would cause all kinds of conflict because I'm like, I feel like I'm fighting for my life every day to not get screwed over.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
that was
I
the.
feel like that. Like, I definitely feel like being a woman, like, it, it's with everybody, but I think even more like a contractor, when they see a woman, they probably automatically think in their head, oh, I could charge her 20-30% more than everybody else
Yeah.
just because she don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and not only that, they think that they can do the work half-ass, and then
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm just gonna pay them for it. So then when I
And be
come
just
in
nice
there,
about everything. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. So then when
Yeah.
I come in there, and you're supposed to be installing a tub, and the water lines aren't hooked up, and I'm turning it on, and like it's not working, and you want to get paid for that, it's like, what? And then they would be so shocked when I'm like, you got to finish the job first, and then I can pay you for this, because the way that I lost money on my second flip was paying my contractor up front. So that's what
A
you
lot of
don't
people
do.
lose money doing that. I lost money doing that.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
just sounds so right to be like, let me just give them 50% and then what it's like.
no, don't pay for anything before it's done because what happens is not everybody, but like if you just never know. So they're gonna be robbing Peter to pay Paul some of the time.
Running a little Ponzi. A lot of these contractors run a little mini Ponzi scheme around
Yeah.
here. Like, let me get this deposit from them, and like you said, go pay off somebody else stuff. Nah.
Yeah, no, good contractors aren't gonna need money up front because they have the money because they're doing honest business.
And they know what they're doing. Like, they know what they're doing. So I think that's a lesson that a lot of people learn just from doing it.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
mean we all do it.
Yeah.
We've all done it once.
Yeah, exactly.
Hopefully
exactly.
that's it though.
So like for the women that are watching this and like they heard what you just said and some of them probably getting a little nervous, like, well, how do I stop a contractor from doing that?
Yeah.
I heard you just say like you weren't scared to get your hands dirty. So like,
Yeah.
what you got to say to them? Like, how do you stop contractors from, taking advantage of you?
Go into it knowing what you need to be paying for things. Go into it with knowledge on what needs to be done. You can watch a YouTube video, you can ask around, you can get multiple bids and talk to each contractor and have them lay it out for you, like what exactly they'll have to do. But just make sure you fully educate yourself and then flex that knowledge to them. Like I tell them like, oh, hey, like I usually pay like $3 a square foot for tile work. I pay like this for that. Like I pay this. Is that like in line with your prices? If not, like I'm not even going to waste your time coming out to the property.
You get multiple opinions?
Yeah.
Okay.
I always get multiple bids. And sometimes you'll get like the last job that I had done was actually for one of my friends. I was her agent, so I went ahead and lined it up for her. But I had someone quote like 20,000, someone quote 12,000, someone quote 8,000. So like that's how big it varies, and you
And
just
that's
make
a
them.
big gap. Yeah, $12,000. I mean,
Yeah, and
you're
you
gonna
just
need
make
that
them
at a certain point in the project.
exactly, but make them like break it down for like what you're paying for materials, what you're paying for labor. Do phone sales. Don't ever give them the money for the materials because it probably won't even go there.
Because
So
a lot of these contractors, they stack up all this leftover material from jobs,
yeah.
and then they just got a warehouse full of material, and then they just upselling you like crazy on it. Like
Mhm.
it's so crazy, like the retail market versus investors. Like,
Yeah.
bro, I done seen contractors charge like people 30 grand for a bathroom. I'm like,
How?
it's because they don't know no better. People don't
Yeah.
know no better. So that's dope. That's dope. So you got straight into the game. You said on your fourth flip, you quit your job. I want to fast
Again.
forward to like when we met. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So we met back in 2018, and I
Mhm.
actually wholesaled the deal to you.
Yeah.
I made I made like 20,000. I made some money on that deal,
Yeah.
and bro, I remember this story like it's yesterday because I remember that situation that happened with dude outside
Yeah.
wasting my time. But then I remember like you is another example. Like you don't stay nowhere. You like, hey, I feel like I could capitalize off this. Let me learn this game and see
Yeah.
if I need a pivot. So I remember selling you that deal, and I remember you like, how you get this deal?
Yeah.
Like, I see you're making and in this game, like people be like, don't count my pockets, but you didn't see what I was making and get mad. You saw what I was making. It was like,
I was interested.
I wanna do that also. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So like you started asking me about the wholesale game and we started, bouncing ideas off each other that way because I wanted to. I'm
Yeah.
looking at what you was doing and flipping just looks so sexy from the outside looking in. It's like
It's not.
they buying a house, they renovating it.
Yeah.
They don't know that though. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But so how important you think that was, for your career? Because then you just made an instant pivot, you know?
Yeah. Oh my God. Like if I hadn't met Abram, I can't even imagine where I would be right now. Like I
Thank you.
didn't
Thank
know.
you. Thank you. The flattery is appreciated.
No, for real. I had no idea what wholesaling even was. He was like the
Hmm.
first wholesaler that I'd ever encountered. His team like reached out to me on Facebook
Hmm.
and they were like, "Do you want this deal?" And I was like, "Yeah, I want this deal.
Hmm.
Looks like a great deal." So I go out there to, well, I had my contractor was supposed to meet him. My contractor never showed up, thank God.
Yeah.
And then so I drive out there. It's like 8 o'clock at night. I've got the flu. I'm like, don't get too close. I'm sick, but I just want to buy this property. So we're walking around, and he's like, "Do you think you could teach me how to flip houses?" And I was like, "Do you think you could teach me how to get properties off market by going direct to seller?" And he was like, "Yeah."
It was like the Spider-Man meme, like
Yeah.
with the Spider-Man and they pointing at each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like that. It was like, oh, okay, cool. So
Right.
keep
Yeah.
going.
We
Keep
wanted to be
going.
like each other. So
Mhm.
basically, Abram started to teach me how to go direct to seller for my deals. I saw like if okay, so say Abram had found that deal and flipped it. I made 30K on it. He made 20K on it. So I was seeing that. I was like, "Oh, I could have made 50K on this deal."
Mhm.
But, obviously we had that broken up. So I was like, I want to be the whole team. I want to be going direct to seller. I want to be flipping it. I want to be the realtor and sell it. And so that's kind of what Abram and I taught each other how to do.
Mhm.
And by being able to go direct to seller for all of my deals, I've been able to completely maximize my profits. I mean, I was probably flipping anywhere from like 20 to 40,000 a flip. Whereas now my spreads, I mean, I keep them now because their spreads are so big, I don't want to pay taxes. But right now my spreads are in the six figures for the deals that I keep. And for the new construction projects, I mean, those are in the seven figures that I'm keeping. So
I
like
like that. We talking that equity talk now. I
Yeah.
like that. What Beyonce said, pay me in equity. I love it. I love it. So you learn deal sourcing, which
yeah,
if you know me, you know deal sourcing is like, if you want to get into real estate, let's start with deal sourcing.
yeah,
Because the most important thing any real estate investor need is a deal. Like if you don't have a deal, how you gonna make money? That's the opportunity. So anybody that's trying to get into the game, I tell them, hey, you need to figure out how to set up a system that's going to buy real estate for you. The way that I do it is go direct to seller. You know what I'm saying? And going direct to seller, you instantly saw how that could like just open up the
So much
entire
value.
game, you
Yeah,
know?
so much value in that. I mean, I was able to like 5x my net worth just by
Hmm.
going direct to seller. Like it's crazy. I mean, I don't even flip houses anymore because of
Exactly.
how lucrative it is to go direct to the seller.
Hmm.
So I mean, I might even say if you're going to start off in real estate, flip one house. That way you can see like what your buyers are going to be doing.
Hmm.
Because that's what I did. I started off flipping, and then I got into wholesaling, and it made it so much easier for me to do it that way.
Hmm.
But if you're a flipper or a developer and you're not sourcing your own deals, you're leaving money on the
A
table.
lot of, especially right now,
Yeah,
you know, because the market fluctuate. Back in 2018, 19, 20,
yeah,
I mean, y'all ain't had to do nothing. The wholesalers, we had it.
yeah,
We had so much deals. It was like, okay, cool. You
yeah.
know, and then like the games start drying up. And
Hmm.
some of my investors, like they call me, text me still like once a week.
Every day, yeah.
Hey, you got some deals? You keeping the best ones for yourself? And I'm like, that's that, you know, back to that thing, the control, you know, setting up a system to where it's like, we're a one-stop shop.
Yeah,
And the way we do that is because we control the contract. So it's like you said, maybe somebody wants to flip a deal. Maybe somebody want to wholesale it. I don't care what you do.
yeah.
But I know one thing. If you control the contract,
Hmm.
you're not leaving as much money on the table than
Exactly.
somebody that's waiting for somebody like me and you to send them that deal with
Yeah.
our nice little fee in between.
Exactly,
You know what I'm
because
saying?
just like with flipping, there's holding costs in wholesaling. There's holding costs in us doing all of our marketing, paying our
Hmm.
acquisition managers, paying our cold callers, our text blasters, however you market for these properties. That's all coming out of our pocket, and then we got to be paid for our time. So like, whoever's buying those flips from us, they have to pay for all of that, and then they have to make it worthwhile for us to have been doing that. So if you're
And they
going
got to
direct,
compete with the other people that want the deal.
and they have to compete with other people that want the deal. So like whereas we are competing with like maybe one other wholesaler,
Hmm.
they're competing with like 20 flippers. I mean,
Yeah,
I got like a month ago I got like 15 offers on a property. And
exactly.
it went way over what it should have, but that's because of the competition.
Hmm.
So, and that was a $50,000 spread for me. So if somebody would have went
All right,
directly
wait,
to the
back it up, back
seller,
it up, back it up, back it up, back it up, back it up. Because you just said I made 50,000. Like you just said it like it just glossed over it. All right, cool. So you made 50 racks on a
Yeah.
wholesale deal last month.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Did you have to buy that deal?
No,
Did you have to have your license for that deal?
no,
Did you have to have any credit, anything like that?
no. I
So
just had the
you just
contract.
found the property,
Yeah.
signed the contract, and found somebody that wanted it.
Yeah.
Well, you had like 15 people wanted it,
Yeah,
and you ended up with $50,000.
that's right.
How long that took?
2 weeks. From the time we got the seller in the system, probably took about 3 months.
3
to
months.
close it. Yeah.
But as far as you, real time working with that seller, how many hours you think working on that deal?
probably like 8.
Okay, so 50,000 divided by 8 is like what? 8 times 8 is 64. 8 times 7 is
I can't do
48.
math either.
That's like that's upwards of like $7,200 an hour.
Yeah.
How many of y'all making that right now? I'm just asking. Would you follow up with a seller for 3 months to make $7,000 an hour? Because that's essentially what you setting yourself up for whenever you learn how to deal source. Because do you agree with this? Like, I feel like whenever you set up a system to deal source, you could pivot in any market easier than everyone else.
Yeah.
You know, like take it like this. Say somebody has an operation where they have to rely on 20 flips at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And say you have 20 flips going on, and then the Fed starts hiking the interest rates like that. How scared are you versus somebody that has a wholesale operation?
Yeah, I mean, there's risk in wholesaling, but it's not as much risk as owning a property.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you're gonna.
Why is it the risk in owning the property? Why is that so risky?
Because if you just own the contract, you can drop it. You don't have to pay. You don't have to pay your mortgage. But like, no matter what, if you own that property and you can't get rid of it, I mean, you're gonna be paying those holding costs this whole time, trying to figure out what to do with it.
Exactly. So, 20 is an extreme number, but like, let's just say your average flipper, I mean, in order to survive, I mean, you need to have at least 3 going on at one time.
Yeah.
Say you paying $1,500, $2,000 a month for 3 properties. That's $6,000. That ain't got nothing to do with anything else you got going on in your life. So I just, setting up that system to be able to deal source and pivot is so much more important. And you also said you make the decision to just cut flipping out. So
Hmm.
now you're like, if I buy real estate, it's for my portfolio.
Exactly. Yeah. Or I'm
Okay,
gonna
so
build it.
why did you? I got three questions. All right.
Okay.
So how long ago did you make that decision? Why did you make that decision? And are you happy with that decision?
Okay.
To stop flipping, to just completely take that. Because I remember when you told me and you stuck by that word. I didn't see you
Yeah.
do a
I was like, I'm
flip.
not flipping anymore. You're like,
Yeah.
yeah, you will. No.
Yeah, you literally like one of the only people that said it and stuck to it.
Oh yeah.
So that I'm
I know
like
myself.
actually really I'm really curious about the answer to this. So
Yeah. So I quit probably 2019. It was after I built my first property and I saw
okay.
how easy that was. I mean, I say easy compared to flipping. For me, that was easier.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so probably in 2019 I quit. Am I happy that I made that decision?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very happy I made that decision.
Why did you make that decision then?
Ooh, I was stressed out all the time flipping properties.
Mm-hmm.
So, also when you build properties rather than flip them, there's a builder's warranty for a year. So, whenever I would flip properties, if something would go wrong, like I can't really warranty that. Like we could buy a home warranty, but I can't really warranty a 1950s property that had something that went wrong that didn't come up on my inspection, didn't come up on the buyer's inspection.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's stressful to have to deal with that and think about it. It's stressful to have to deal with contractors not knowing if things got done the right way before you pay them. Like I was always feeling like I was fighting for my life not to get swindled. So I just prioritized like stress management and I
Mm-hmm.
was like, what's the path of least resistance for me that's going to allow me to have enough clear mental space to keep, what's the word for it?
To keep going, like just have the energy to like keep executing at a high level.
Yeah, to
That's
like
how I'm taking
expand
it.
and scale. There we go.
Okay.
To
All
scale
right.
my company. So I wanted something scalable. For me, flipping houses wasn't scalable. Maybe I just didn't have the right systems in place. Maybe I just didn't have the right deal flow. But once I saw that I could make the same or more doing direct to seller deal sourcing and that I could keep my 6-figure spreads as rental properties or build on my, 7-figure spreads. I mean, that's when I was like, it's not even worth it to put myself through that stress. I want to put all of
Mm-hmm.
my mental focus on something that's minimally stressful for me that I know I can scale.
Mm-hmm. Nah, I agree because like flipping is like it's like peeling a band-aid. You don't really know what's behind those walls
Yeah.
versus you done mentioned you got new construction too. They ain't know that. Versus building a house, brand, and you know my answer to that. I love new construction. Like if it comes to flip, new construction, I love new construction. Should you do a flip before you build? Yes, probably so because it is a lesser risk, but it is more stressful. I know that's like contradicting a little bit, but you'll find out once you get there because building a house is you're starting from scratch. It's not a
Yeah.
1950s crib, and then
Mhm.
it's like that's the process every single time. So it's easier to hire a GC and have the necessary crews to build one house, two house, three house, five houses at a time because you know the schedule. You know, it's dig the footers,
Yeah.
get the foundation, let's get the framing. So every house is at a different part of the schedule, which requires a different crew.
Yeah.
Versus flipping, you might need that same crew throughout the entire deal. You know what I'm saying? So it's
Mhm.
harder to scale that way. And then you said like, I basically found out how to make cash because that's what flipping properties is, right?
Yeah.
Like just making cash. So
Right.
it's like, if I know how to make cash at the drop of a dime, wholesaling deals or novating, whatever you do,
Yeah.
then I'm gonna use that cash not to. And this is my thought process, and this is what I did that I feel like I'm like, nah. Okay, you learn how to make cash wholesaling.
Yeah.
Then you try to chase more cash by flipping
Mm.
versus like, nah, use that cash to build wealth. And I think that's what you're doing, which is great. You're using that cash to, okay, if I got a good deal that I would flip, then I need to keep it. Cause that's like
Right.
100,000 worth of equity.
Yeah.
I could pull from it. I could save taxes on it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a good system to work. But you also mentioned something before I get you out here. I know we're about to wrap up. What got you into development? Like, what made you want to just build a house?
Yeah. So I always wanted a house hack.
Yeah.
And I was looking for a duplex because, in Nashville, Tennessee, there's a lot of restrictions for short term rentals. And I really wanted to get in the short term rental game, just like, get my foot in the door. So I was looking for a duplex to house hack so that way I could live in one side and rent out the other.
Okay, got you. So basically, it don't cost you to live, eliminating
Yeah.
that fee. All right,
Yeah,
cool.
That so house hacking is when you don't have to pay for your mortgage because there's tenants that are doing that,
Mm-hmm.
but you live there. So I could never find that kind of deal. Like it was always way overpriced, way more than I was willing to pay. But then I came across a lot that I got for $85,000, and I initially wanted to sell that to people. And people
Mm.
kept telling me it's too high, it's too high. And I'm like, it's not. It's
You
a
wanted to
good
sell
deal.
it to
This is a
me?
great neighborhood. Yeah. I was like, it's a great neighborhood. Like, why aren't people buying it? And so one of my friends was like, well, why don't you buy it? If it's such a good deal, why don't you buy it? And I was like, it is a good deal. Like, why don't I buy it? So then I was like, I'm going to house hack this property. I'm going to build it. I'm going to put a mother-in-law suite in the back. I'm going to Airbnb that out. I'm not going to pay a mortgage. So by the end of the day, I bought the house. 6 months later, started building on it. I think it was actually 2 months later, started building on it. Then 6 months after that, the house was finished. Put it on Airbnb. Now it's a 2 bedroom, 1 bathroom with a kitchenette, and it grosses about 45,000 a year. My mortgage is like 1,500.
Because you got that when it was like, what, 2% rates or
Yeah,
something?
my rate's like 3.25.
Okay, dope.
It was like 268.
You'll never see that again.
Yeah, I'll never see that again. Even my home equity line of credit it's 4%. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not selling this property ever.
What you said. All right, so talk about the numbers on that. You just said home equity line of credit, so that means you got to have equity to have a
Right.
HELOC against it. So,
Yeah.
all right, you bought the lot for $85,000. How much did you spend building it?
Okay, so bought it for $85,000. It was $268,000 to build it.
So all in cost is around $340-ish.
Yeah, about $340, and it's worth like $675 today.
Okay, so about $325,000 in equity.
In equity, yeah.
Sitting in that property. So that was
because I
definitely
went
a good
direct
decision.
to seller.
Exactly, because how much you was trying to sell it to people for a markup?
I was just trying to get like $105,000 out of it, which still would have been. I mean,
a great deal.
Everybody messed up, but
yeah.
I'm glad they did because that's my best property that I own to date. I live in it. Sometimes I rent the rooms out to like Furnish Finder and stuff like that. Make a couple extra thousand a month. But yeah, that's what got me into new development. I saw how like easy it was to like put up that property. You hire an architect, you hire, if you're doing a multi-build, you hire an engineer, you hire a general contractor. All these professionals know what they're doing. You can trust them. They have, licenses, they have insurance, they have credibility. And so they put it all together. You sign a contract with them for the price. You sign a contract with them for like worst case scenario timeline. You want to buffer in some, what if it takes longer for you to build this and it's not because of the weather? Like, what are you going to do? But at the end of the day, for me, I felt like it was less risky than flipping because the price is almost guaranteed. If you work with somebody who's willing to do that for you, my builders will do that for me, guarantee the price. And then they'll guarantee the date, like worst case scenario. So they'll probably like add like 3 months on to like where they really think they could finish it. And then they have like a penalty if they don't meet that deadline, which is probably unlikely because they're overestimating it. And so there's so much more certainty. Whereas with flipping, like I had a flip, I thought I could get done in 30 days. It took me 90 days, which then like brought up my holding costs. So yeah, for me, new development was a no-brainer. And there's so much more margin in it too.
So now are you still building right now?
Yeah.
Well, I know you are. How much houses are you building right now?
Yeah. So I'm partnering to build. So what I'm doing is, so I don't have to spend money out of pocket. I am bringing my value. So my value is I went direct to the seller. I got killer deals on 3 different lots. They're going to be multi-million-dollar net profits on the back end. And so what I did with my first one, I found some partners. That's probably like my worst deal that I've done. I don't even want to dive into it that much, but I got the short end of the stick with that one, but I didn't know my value, right?
You learned your value.
I learned my value. So I got a small percentage of that, but I brought a lot of equity, and I don't have to use any of my skill because they're doing it all. So I'm kind of like a silent partner in that one. That's 18 units. Then on my other 2, I knew my value, and I was like, I'm not settling because I could take out a loan. I could do all of this by myself. But I don't want to. I want to have partners, and I just want to be able to spread myself a little bit thinner, so I can put my hand in more pots. And so basically, I'm a 50-50 partner. I bring the deal. I bring the equity. I bring my experience and I bring my footwork. And then my partner, who is an absolute gem, is paying for it all. And he's just there like to support, and he, helps with like giving direction and all that stuff. But like ultimately, I'm bringing the value of having gone direct to seller, having a property with a ton of equity in it, having the experience to be able to build the property and know what we're going to get on the exit. So,
Now that's dope because leveraging, like sometimes you look at that 50 as it's like the glass half full or half empty. You
yeah.
look at it like you giving 50 instead of like, no, I'm gaining 50. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because whenever you talk to like big business owners and CEOs, the number one way that they get into another field that they want to get into or another business that's separate than what they normally do
Yeah.
is by leveraging someone else that's done it before or have something that they don't have. So
Yeah.
I think that's dope. And I think every business owner needs to apply that into their business if you want to scale bigger. Either
Mm-hmm.
you want the whole grape or you want a piece of a watermelon. Piece of
Yeah.
a watermelon probably gonna be bigger than the whole grape. So that pretty much wrap up our podcast. Really, before I let you go, is like, what's the one thing you want to leave everybody with? Is it a book, a piece of advice, a motto, a quote? What is it that you want to leave our people with before we wrap up?
All right. My favorite piece of advice when you're making decisions is to, and I talked about this already, but just to reemphasize it, is you need to weigh the best case scenario against the worst case scenario. And if the best case scenario is worth risking going into the worst case scenario, then you have your answer.
Exactly.
Just do it. Pull the trigger. You have to get out there. You have to do it. Take educated risk. Ask for help where you need it. I mean, I built my whole business based off of asking people questions.
So yeah, exactly. Now I agree. Like if you want to do something, the best way is to start getting those reps in. Really, like as simple as that. Start getting those reps in, and the path illuminates as you walk it, straight up. So that wraps up another dope episode. This was dope. This was real dope. Like I know, like somebody go see this episode. Specifically, I know a woman, but the men also too, and they go like, be like, I'm diving in. Like if she could do it, I could do it, and that's exactly what we film these shows for. Is to motivate and inspire and serve the people that might not have access to this information as easy as possible. So we put this show out for free every week. That wrap up another great episode. We'll be back again next Monday. I'm out.